Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard. Thank you for watching today's Corn Belt Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Checking in with the jet stream here early Tuesday morning, we got a look that we haven't seen for quite some time across the United States. A trough in the west and a ridge in the east, and that is allowing some warmth to build back into parts of the Corn Belt that really haven't felt a lot of that for the last month or so. As we head into the next few days, we're looking at the jet stream now on Thursday. We're going to be watching a system making its way through the northern plains, keeping severe weather, keeping thunderstorms, keeping rain in the forecast across especially the northern plains and the Great Lakes. The next 10 days, temperature anomalies here. Over the next 5 days, watching that warmth really build across central and eastern parts of the Corn Belt. But even as we head into September 16th through the 20th, we're going to watch the ridge reestablish itself in a pretty dramatic way here, allowing warmth to expand to include pretty much the entire Corn Belt, again, as we head into the September 16th through the 20th timeframe. And that's some pretty strong warmth, pretty strong signal across parts of the upper Midwest into central and eastern Corn Belt here, which is, temperatures maybe 10 to 15 degrees above normal. That could certainly mean some 90-degree days here across the Midwest as we head into the next 7 to 10 days. The next 2 weeks of precipitation, we're really focusing on the left side here, the week 1 time frame, and that keeps this pattern very active across especially the northern plains into the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes. Now, the last 24 hours of precipitation, we've seen quite a bit of thunderstorm activity across the northern plains into the upper Midwest, even some severe weather across parts of Iowa. Numerous wind damage reports here across central and eastern Iowa. A couple tornadoes here reported across parts of South Dakota, and even a couple reports of some large hail across parts of northwestern Kansas. So really an active pattern across the northern plains into the upper Midwest, and a pattern that's going to keep favoring thunderstorms across that very same region. Now, the satellite picture here on Tuesday morning, we're watching a couple clusters of showers and storms across parts of Iowa, across Wisconsin, and then far northern Illinois here early on Tuesday morning. Again, here are those showers and storms as we look at the radar picture. That's the activity we have to speak of here on Tuesday morning. And again, that is about the same area that's going to remain active over the next 24 to 72 hours, including areas back to the south or back to the west across the Dakotas and Nebraska. The reason for that right now, we've got a surface low across northern Minnesota with a front extending off to the south and the west back into the central plains. And as we head through the next few days, we'll jump ahead to Wednesday evening. The pattern doesn't change a whole lot. That surface low in Minnesota races off to the northeast, but the frontal boundary stalls across the Midwest. We'll watch for another area of low pressure, another significant storm system to develop mid to late week across the central plains, sweeping across the northern plains into the upper Midwest. And again, all of the lines and all the arrows I'm drawing on here with frontal boundaries and areas of low pressure, that keeps us very active across that region there from the central and northern plains into the upper Midwest. The next 3 days of severe weather forecasts here, there's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as we go across from the Storm Prediction Center, an enhanced risk on the Nebraska and South Dakota border with a slight risk surrounding that. So a significant risk for some strong storms across parts of northern Nebraska into southern South Dakota. And of course, that could include very large hail, a couple of tornadoes, and some gusty winds. Same story as we head into the day on Wednesday, same area. Northern Nebraska, southern South Dakota, surrounding portions of central Nebraska into much of eastern and central South Dakota and southwestern Minnesota. A slight risk, same thing, some very large hail possible, a couple of tornadoes and some gusty winds. And then as we get into Thursday, we watch that area of low pressure that's emerged across the Rockies with a cold front extending off to the south of it, bringing a slight risk of some strong storms to parts of the central U.S., Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa. And then if you jump ahead to Friday, this thing will just keep on moving off to the east. The high resolution rapid refresh, this is going to take us into the afternoon tomorrow. We'll just go ahead and we'll go slowly with this one. We'll get the scroller to show up and we'll bring it back to Tuesday morning. This will highlight the Tuesday afternoon and evening threat across the central and northern plains as we head into the mid to late afternoon. Watching for these thunderstorms to erupt across the high plains here, parts of eastern Wyoming into South Dakota and Nebraska. Again, a few of those storms producing some very large hail, gusty winds, and maybe a couple of tornadoes. The thunderstorms continue to grow and perhaps evolve into an MCS, a cluster of storms, as they travel along that frontal boundary here across the Dakotas into parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. As we head into the day on Wednesday, then you remember that severe weather risk right in this area. We'll watch for the same thing, showers and storms developing in this area, and then racing across the very same area of the Dakotas into Minnesota and Wisconsin. So again, 2 days of some pretty significant thunderstorm activity possible across that region. So you look at the NAM model, this will kind of take it into Thursday, so take it a bit further, showing us a similar look. We'll take this through Tuesday afternoon and evening, watching for that severe weather threat across this region. Thunderstorms popping up across eastern Wyoming and then parts of western Nebraska, western South Dakota. Again, watching for the risk of some very large hail, a tornado or two, some gusty winds. Kind of reiterating myself over and over. As we talk about parts of Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana, a very low risk for maybe a couple isolated scattered thunderstorms as we head through the rest of the day. We've got showers and storms across this region this morning. We could see a boundary or two left across this region, allowing thunderstorms to flare back up as we get into the afternoon and evening on Tuesday. Now let's head through Tuesday night, getting into Wednesday morning. We're watching again this cluster of storms kind of moving from west to east from the Dakotas into Minnesota, Wisconsin, perhaps Iowa touching, getting a drink from some of those thunderstorms as they move through the area. And then heading into the day on Wednesday, watching this area of low pressure emerge from the Rockies. You can see the flow there, the counterclockwise flow around this area of low pressure emerging from the Rockies, coming through the Central Plains. Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, watching this area here, South Dakota, Nebraska, for the flare-up of some severe thunderstorms, large hail, a couple tornadoes, and some gusty winds possible there, and then some significant rainfall perhaps coming from these as they develop into another MCS, another potential squall line here, moving from west to east. This is the look here around midnight Wednesday night, Thursday morning. There's the cold front, the area of low pressure up here. We've got a warm front extending across the Midwest into the eastern Corn Belt. That, of course, the old frontal boundary that's stalled across the region, now lifting back to the north as a warm front. So significant precipitation possible here again across the very same area. I'm repeating myself over and over, but this is a pattern that really favors the repetitive showers and storms, perhaps some severe weather, perhaps some very heavy rainfall across this corridor as we head through Thursday now. Getting into Thursday night or Thursday afternoon, we'll see that area of low pressure wrapping up in this region here, and then we'll have a cold front extending off to the south. That's where we'll see that severe weather risk on Thursday across parts of Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa, with more rain, more of a cool rain on the backside now developing across the Dakotas, but still seeing some significant rainfall possible even as we head into the later part of the week. Total accumulated precipitation, this from the high-resolution NAM model. There you see it focusing in on that corridor from the northern plains into the upper Midwest, really talking a lot about Nebraska and South Dakota, parts of southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, getting into Wisconsin, North Dakota as well, really being the winners here with precipitation over the next several days. And that frontal boundary extended across this region, parts of northern Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, perhaps seeing some scattered showers and storms. That possible here across central Illinois as well. A very low risk here, probably going to be highest on Tuesday evening for maybe a scattered shower and storm, but parts of central Illinois largely going to be dry till we get that frontal passage here late Thursday into Friday. The national blended model, again, this takes a consensus look at some of our more popular, some of our better weather models, looking at the next 5 days, really honing in on that corridor, the northern plains into the upper Midwest, the Dakotas, Nebraska, getting into Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. The winners here for precipitation, perhaps some significant precipitation in some areas here from the Dakotas into Minnesota and Wisconsin, perhaps seeing over 4 to 5 inches of rain in some local areas here. Once that front moves through here on Thursday, bringing some precipitation into parts of the central U.S. and the eastern Corn Belt. But the eastern Corn Belt, especially southern portions of that, from southern Illinois into southern Indiana and southern Ohio, the Ohio River Valley into the Mid-South, really looking at more isolated to scattered precipitation with the more widespread rain threat off to the north. The pattern is illustrated well here as we look at a map of dew points. I'll play it out first and let you just kind of take it in, and then we'll go ahead and step back. And what you're seeing is a lot of southerly flow coming off the Gulf of Mexico. You're seeing it wide open here, pumping moisture back into the Midwest. This is a very summer-like pattern. This is something I'd expect more like in June. Again, with the wide open Gulf, with frontal boundaries stalled across the region, allowing repetitive rounds of showers and storms across this region. But the bigger reason I put this in here, let's take this through Thursday. We're going through, we're into Tuesday now, Wednesday, we're watching the Gulf of Mexico wide open, watching moisture streaming in. Here's the first frontal boundary that gets kind of stalled out across the region. Here it comes. It's moving through as we get into Thursday. You know what? I have this better illustrated here coming up. Give me just a moment. But you're seeing the wide open Gulf of Mexico. Where are we headed beyond that? This is really what I wanted to show. We're looking at the 500 millibar height anomalies here from the GFS. We bring it back to Tuesday. You can see, let's get this paused. trough west, ridge east. That's what's allowing the warmth. That's what's keeping the battle zone here across the northern plains with repetitive rounds of showers and storms. Very summer-like pattern, very June-like pattern. Then as we head into the later part of the week, we watch this first storm system moving through. That's what brings the area of low pressure and the cold front through the region on Thursday. But then as we get into next week, watch what happens. The ridge reestablishes itself over the central and the eastern U.S. in a pretty dramatic way here with a trough west, ridge east. That allows warmth to regain control over the Midwest and over the Corn Belt. 500 millibar vorticity. This kind of helps us pick out our storm systems. I'll show you the Thursday wave. Here it is. You see that little swirl, that area of spin within the upper levels of the atmosphere. That comes sweeping through on Thursday. But then as we get into Sunday now, Monday, Tuesday of next week, you're seeing our next storm system begin to organize over the Intermountain West, over the Rockies, but you're seeing the ridge reestablish itself over the eastern two-thirds of the country, and that keeps us warm across the Midwest. The GFS precipitation forecast here will take this a little bit further than we've been talking about initially here Tuesday through Thursday. We'll go quickly here through the first couple of days now, watching that area of low pressure developing across the central plains here late Wednesday, getting into Thursday now, watching that front sweep across parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt. This is a look on Thursday evening. The area of low pressure across North Dakota and Minnesota with that cold front extending all the way into the southern plains. Now we take this through Friday now, getting into Saturday and Sunday. And that I'll show you here. Let's go ahead and jump ahead to, I want to really get to this plot right here. The precipitable water. This is the amount of moisture content within the atmosphere. And this is really going to show this frontal boundary here stalling once we get to Thursday. So we're watching the wide open Gulf of Mexico. I'll just play it here for a moment, take it all in. And what did you notice? If I bring this back to today, we're watching wide open Gulf of Mexico, keeping moisture pumped into the midsection of the country. We'll go ahead and we'll play this out. You'll see the first wave emerge now late Wednesday into Thursday. You see the area of low pressure. You see the clockwise spin around that. You can see the cold front extending off to the south back from Minnesota into the central and southern plains. We take this through Thursday, getting into Friday now. Watch what happens to that front. You're seeing it stall now. Rather than sweep all the way through the Gulf of Mexico, it stalls out, and we immediately begin funneling moisture back in behind it. And that reestablishes the same pattern, a very warm and muggy air mass across the Corn Belt that's conducive to showers and storms. The temperature anomaly forecast, this will show that as well, seeing a lot of red, a lot of orange shading across the midsection of the country. That's a very warm pattern as we head through the next 10 days. We get a bit of a cool down as the front moves through Thursday and Friday, but then we spend the weekend kind of reestablishing things, shifting back to a warmer pattern as we head into next week. Now, total precipitation day by day. This will kind of show us the precipitation look as we head into next week. Total precipitation here Tuesday, again, focused in on this corridor here. A little bit more gung-ho than I'm comfortable with here across parts of central Illinois and Indiana there. I'm not quite so sure we'll see the significant precipitation across the eastern Corn Belt here, talking about central Illinois and Indiana Tuesday, as the GFS wants to suggest. Wednesday, keeping it active along this frontal boundary, watching for the area of low pressure to develop across the central plains. Thursday, you can really pick out the area of low pressure now, that comma shape taking shape here Thursday. Friday, the front gets through, quiet on the backside across a big chunk of the Corn Belt for the day on Friday. Maybe some thunderstorms along that front here from the the southern plains into parts of Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And then as we head into next week, as that front doesn't clear the Gulf, keeping moisture pumped back into the area, we don't have a well-defined storm system emerging until we get to mid to late week. But as we talk about Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, with the wide open Gulf, any little trigger could kick off scattered or at least isolated showers and storms across parts of the eastern Corn Belt. So again, no focal point that I can really give you a detailed forecast on right now across the eastern Corn Belt, but I would say thunderstorms certainly going to be on the table in isolated fashion as we get into the Monday and Tuesday time frame next week. And as we get into the middle part of next week, we'll watch for that next area of low pressure, that next storm system kind of comes sweeping through. So I guess my main message is we'll really be focused in on this area Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for some significant rainfall. And then we'll be talking about the entire Corn Belt really seeing isolated rain chances as we get into Monday and Tuesday of next week, watching mid to late next week for the next well-defined storm system. So let's just move ahead. Let's talk about high temperatures for the next 5 days, watching a lot of warmth build into the Corn Belt in parts of the area that haven't seen it in quite some time. High temperatures in the 90s possible here across the eastern Corn Belt, where again, we've just been seeing round after round of cooler, milder, less humid air. So this is something we haven't experienced here since mid-August. High temperatures on Tuesday, very similar. Wednesday, that front starts emerging. We're getting a cool down off to the north. High temperatures on Wednesday, or Thursday, I apologize, only in the 50s across the Dakotas. But this is a short-lived cool down. You see it moving from west to east there. By the time we get to Saturday, really starting to bring that warmth back into the region. The heat should be on by the time we get to Monday and Tuesday of next week. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Thursday morning ag forecast video. And I'll check back in with the Corn Belt. We'll talk about rain chances in more detailed look as we head into next week, right here on Friday morning. Have a great day.